For years, Claire sacrificed everything to save her family's hotel. She gave up her career, her savings, and her peace. But when her parents handed all the credit and power to her brother, something inside her shifted. This was not just betrayal. It was the beginning of a transformation that would leave everyone stunned by what she built on her own. Claire stood frozen in the newly renovated lobby, the pride she once felt now curdling into disbelief. Just days earlier, she had finalized the last of the upgrades. She had handpicked the locally sourced artwork, redesigned the reservation system, and secured a glowing feature in a major travel magazine. The Mountain Pine Lodge had gone from near bankruptcy to a must-visit destination in under a year. And now, her parents were naming her younger brother Ryan as CEO. Claire had dropped everything in Chicago to rescue this place. She had 20 years of experience managing luxury hotels. Her professional track record was spotless, her reputation solid. So when her father called crying for help, she didn't hesitate. She sold her condo, drained her savings, and moved back to Colorado. The lodge was outdated, the staff demoralized, and the guest reviews brutal. But Claire saw more than just peeling wallpaper and sagging carpets. She saw legacy. In the first month alone, Claire worked from dawn till midnight. She replaced worn-out furniture, installed a digital booking system, and trained the staff to deliver service that matched 4-star standards. She negotiated new contracts, restored community partnerships, and slowly pulled the lodge back into the black. The bookings doubled. Review scores soared. Guests were starting to return. Meanwhile, Ryan floated in and out of town, always full of vague ideas and big-picture talk. He had never stayed in one job longer than a year. His latest venture before coming back had involved consulting for a startup that never launched. Yet their parents saw him as visionary. Claire was simply too focused on details, too serious, too much. She tried not to take it personally, but it stung. Watching her brother stroll into meetings late, charm their parents with buzzwords, and dismiss her contributions as logistics made her blood boil. When her mother broke the news that Ryan would be leading the hotel moving forward, Claire didn't shout. She didn't argue. She simply nodded. That night, she stood by the window of her room overlooking the mountains and realized something. She could not win their approval. No amount of dedication would ever make them see her as the leader she had become. If they wanted Ryan in charge, so be it. But she would not stick around to watch him destroy everything she had built. She would create something new, something that no one could take from her. Claire spent the next morning walking through the familiar streets of town, her thoughts racing. She passed the old Riverside Lodge, once a thriving competitor to her family's hotel but now abandoned and falling apart. The windows were dusty, the paint peeling, but the view from the front steps was spectacular, better even than the view from Mountain Pine Lodge. Something inside her stirred. This place had potential, the kind only she could truly see. She stepped closer, peering through the glass. The layout was spacious, the location unbeatable, and the bones of the building still strong. Her heart began to beat faster. For years, she had given everything to someone else's dream. Maybe it was time to build her own. Without hesitation, she pulled out her phone and called a local realtor. The next few days were a blur of inspections, paperwork, and quiet planning. Claire kept it all to herself. She didn't want anyone to talk her out of it, especially not her parents. They had made their choice and now she was making hers. With her savings and a little help from the equity left over from selling her condo, Claire made an offer. Within a week it was hers. She named it the Summit. The name symbolized not only the stunning mountain backdrop, but also the personal peak she intended to reach. She hired a team of contractors, many of whom she worked with during the Mountain Pine renovation. They trusted her. They had seen her work ethic. And more importantly, they knew her vision was worth betting on. As renovations began, Claire worked around the clock. She transformed the old lobby into a modern, welcoming space. The restaurant was redesigned with a farm-to-table concept, featuring local ingredients and seasonal menus. The rooms were updated with smart technology, luxurious linens, and eco-friendly touches. She created a wellness program that included yoga on the terrace, spa packages, and curated adventure guides. Word began to spread. Locals whispered about her bold move. Some saw it as betrayal. Others called it inspiring. But Claire didn't care. She had spent her whole life worrying about what others thought, And where had it gotten her? Passed over, overlooked, dismissed. Now she had a project that was fully her own. No one to second-guess her decisions. No brother to take credit. No parents to override her judgment. She poured every ounce of her experience, creativity, and determination into the summit. And slowly but surely it began to shine. As construction at the summit progressed, Claire's vision began to come alive. Each day brought new milestones. The lobby's stone fireplace was completed, the spa equipment installed, and the first test run of the digital concierge system went smoothly. Though she was exhausted, Claire had never felt more energized. For the first time, she wasn't just helping someone else succeed. She was building something of her own from the ground up. Meanwhile, Mountain Pine Lodge was unraveling. Guests who had once raved about the improvements were now posting complaints. The breakfast buffet Claire had worked hard to perfect had been slashed. Maintenance requests piled up. Staff turnover increased, and longtime employees like Maria and Jamal quietly reached out to Claire, asking if there might be a place for them at the summit. Claire welcomed them without hesitation. She wasn't just building a hotel. She was forming a new kind of team, a group of professionals who shared her dedication to service, excellence, and innovation. Her leadership wasn't loud or boastful. It was clear, thoughtful, and deeply respected. Ryan, on the other hand, was floundering. He had no real plan, only vague ideas and a knack for charming investors who didn't understand the day-to-day demands of hospitality. His changes were hasty, his leadership erratic. He tried launching a loyalty program without a working database. He ordered furniture that didn't fit the rooms. The staff at Mountain Pine Lodge grew increasingly frustrated, but few felt empowered to speak up. The contrast between the two properties became impossible to ignore. Guests began talking. Travel bloggers noticed. Local papers ran features on Claire's project, calling it a bold and beautiful comeback story. Ryan's frustration spilled into family dinners, where he complained that Claire was undermining him. Their parents tried to play peacemaker, urging Claire to be more supportive. She smiled politely but said little. Deep down, she knew what they feared. The summit was gaining ground quickly, and if it kept growing at this pace, it wouldn't just match Mountain Pine Lodge, it would surpass it. Claire didn't need to compete out of spite. She didn't need to prove anything to anyone. But as she stood on the terrace at sunset, watching the construction crews wrap up for the day, she felt it in her bones. She wasn't just succeeding. She was reclaiming everything she had once given away. Her voice, her leadership, her place. The weeks following that conversation felt like waking up from a long, restless sleep. For the first time in years, Claire did not feel the crushing need to prove anything to her family. Instead, she poured her energy into elevating the summit even further. She hosted workshops for aspiring hotel professionals, initiated local collaborations for seasonal events, and personally welcomed returning guests with a warmth that had become her signature. Word of mouth continued to spread, and reservations poured in faster than the system could handle. Claire responded not with panic but with poise, expanding her team and introducing new tools to ensure service quality remained impeccable. Meanwhile, whispers from the Mountain Pine Lodge grew louder. Former employees reached out privately, sharing stories of disorganization and dwindling morale. Guests posted online about overbooked weekends, unclean linens, and staff who looked stressed and untrained. Claire read the reviews with a heavy heart, not from joy or revenge, but from a place of deep disappointment. She had tried. She had offered everything, and they had chosen someone who had never respected the weight of responsibility. She sat in silence for a while before returning the call. Her father answered on the first ring. His voice was quiet, thinner somehow. Claire listened as he recounted what had happened. She offered suggestions. Not emotionally charged opinions but practical solutions. She told him which vendor could be trusted for emergency repairs, and which suppliers might reconsider if addressed with honesty and respect. Her father thanked her. She could hear the weight behind those words, the subtle tremor of a man who had realized too late that his daughter had been the stronghold all along. When the call ended, Claire leaned back in her chair and closed her eyes. She felt no satisfaction, no smugness, only calm. She had finally become what she was always meant to be. Not the daughter proving her worth. Not the sister fighting for a place. But a woman who had already arrived. The following weekend brought an unexpected invitation. A handwritten note arrived in a cream-colored envelope with her parents' familiar script. They wanted to host a family dinner. Just them. No Ryan. No distractions. Just a chance to talk. Claire read the note twice before setting it aside on her desk. A year ago she would have seen it as a beacon of hope. Now it felt like a delicate offering placed at the altar of something already broken. Still she agreed. Not out of obligation. Not because she was waiting for an apology, but because she was finally strong enough to hear anything without losing herself in the process. She arrived at their house just after 6. The dining table was set with the good china and soft music played from the living room speaker. Her mother greeted her at the door with a strained smile. Her father gave a nod and gestured toward the table. Dinner passed with uneasy civility. They spoke about local events and the town's plans for ski season. It was only after dessert that her father set down his fork and looked directly at her. His voice was steady but quiet as he began to speak. He admitted they had been wrong. About Ryan. About her. About everything they thought they understood about running the hotel. He confessed they never truly saw the depth of what she had done, until they tried to do it themselves and watched everything unravel. Her mother remained silent until the very end. When she finally spoke, her words were soft but sincere. She said she had never intended to dismiss Claire's work. She had simply taken it for granted. Watching the summit flourish had forced her to confront what she had refused to see. Claire listened without interruption. When they were finished, she nodded. She told them she appreciated the honesty, but she also told them that honesty was only the first step. Healing required action, boundaries, and time. As she left their house that night, her heart felt lighter than she expected. Not because things had been mended, but because she had finally said what needed to be said without fear or apology. On the drive back to the summit, the road ahead looked familiar but new. The trees along the mountain curves whispered through the wind as if cheering her on. She was not returning to something. She was moving forward. The morning after that quiet dinner, Claire arrived at the summit earlier than usual. The air outside was crisp and the sky a soft wash of gold as the sun crept over the peaks. She stepped into the lobby just as the first delivery of the day arrived. Fresh pastries from a local bakery. Her staff greeted her with warmth and familiarity. Felt like coming home. She walked the halls with a renewed sense of purpose. Each detail of the hotel whispered her name. The hand-picked art lining the corridors. The soothing color palettes she had agonized over. Even the lighting had been adjusted to match the natural rhythm of the mountain daylight. She had built all of it from the ground up. And now it breathed with life. Later that day during a team meeting, Claire shared updates about the upcoming winter season. Ski partnerships were expanding. Reservations were already near capacity for December. A new wellness retreat was in the planning stages. Her staff responded with enthusiasm and ideas of their own. It was a space where voices mattered and collaboration thrived. The contrast to her past life at Mountain Pine Lodge was undeniable. That evening as she sat in her office reviewing vendor proposals, a familiar name popped into her inbox. Sarah, the former head housekeeper from Mountain Pine, had written to ask if there was an opening at the summit. She had tried to stay loyal, but things under Ryan's management had only worsened. Standards were slipping. Staff morale was at an all-time low. Claire replied without hesitation. She invited Sarah to lunch the following week. Felt symbolic in a way. The old guard slowly migrating toward a place where their work was honored. Not exploited. Not ignored. Outside the window, snow had begun to fall. Just a light dusting, but enough to coat the trees and rooftops with a gentle hush. Claire sipped her tea, watching the flakes spiral through the air. She no longer measured her days by approval or validation. Her worth was no longer tangled in what her family did or did not see. She had found her peace in action. In resilience. In choosing to show up for herself when no one else would. And now, with winter approaching and her vision thriving, she felt something she had not felt in years. Steady. Winter arrived in full force the following week. The summit came alive with travelers from across the country eager to experience the mountains in their pristine beauty. Snow blanketed the rooftops and guests huddled by fireplaces sipping hot cocoa as laughter echoed through the lounge. Claire walked the halls in her tailored winter coat, exchanging warm greetings with guests and staff alike. Every room was booked. every detail humming like a well-tuned orchestra. Her staff moved like a team that trusted one another. From the concierge to the cleaning crews, each person knew their value and gave their best. It was what Claire had always dreamed a hotel could be. Not just a business but a living community where hospitality was more than a job. It was purpose. During a midday break, Claire sat at a windowside table in the cafe flipping through a feature article in a national travel magazine. Her hotel graced the center spread under the bold headline, "The New Standard of Mountain Luxury." The article praised her leadership and her boldness in breaking away from traditional family expectations. It was surreal to see it in print. Her eyes lingered on one line in particular. Claire Anderson has redefined what it means to honor a family legacy by creating one of her own. She closed the magazine and looked out at the snowy peaks. Pride bloomed in her chest, but it was quiet, not boastful. It was the pride of a woman who had climbed her own mountain one decision at a time. That evening she received a call from Sarah. The interview had gone well, and she was thrilled to accept the new position. Claire smiled, hearing the relief in her voice. "You are going to do amazing things here," Claire told her. And for the first time in a long time she heard true gratitude on the other end of the call. Later that night, Claire hosted a small staff gathering in the summit's fireside lounge. There were drinks, soft music, and a sense of celebration. Not for awards or reviews but simply for surviving the storm and coming out stronger. Claire looked around the room at the faces she had come to cherish. These people had chosen to believe in her dream. And together they had turned it into something real. As the fire crackled and snow swirled outside, Claire felt that same sense of steady resolve. She had built this place with her own two hands. And she was just getting started. Winter arrived in full force the following week. The summit came alive with travelers from across the country eager to experience the mountains in their pristine beauty. Snow blanketed the rooftops and guests huddled by fireplaces sipping hot cocoa as laughter echoed through the lounge. Claire walked the halls in her tailored winter coat, exchanging warm greetings with guests and staff alike. Every room was booked. Every detail humming like a well-tuned orchestra. Her staff moved like a team that trusted one another. From the concierge to the cleaning crews, each person knew their value and gave their best. It was what Claire had always dreamed a hotel could be. Not just a business but a living community where hospitality was more than a job. It was purpose. During a midday break, Claire sat at a windowside table in the cafe flipping through a feature article in a national travel magazine. Her hotel graced the center spread under the bold headline, "The New Standard of Mountain Luxury." The article praised her leadership and her boldness in breaking away from traditional family expectations. It was surreal to see it in print.